Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den. Legacy Internet Radio. Thank y'all to everybody who is in the studio with us. Y'all are rocking with us. We are rolling with y'all. We appreciate those folks who are listening to us right now on TuneIn and Streamer and the replays on YouTube and iTunes. We thank you to those folks that were checking out the live stream earlier when we were doing the live stream on Facebook. Shout out to those folks. Shout out to our brother Said, who just walked in the door. Live Action Captions, our sponsor. He typically don't want to grab the mic, but I'm giving him a pound as we speak. So we appreciate this brother for bringing up the energy in the room. We love him. Of course, it's time for my brother, Mr. 3375, to take us a walk into the Champipple room. We call it the Champipple room because when we come up in here, we see all kinds of cool stuff like lava lamps and, you know, what else we got in here, man?
We got the leopard skin.
We got the leopard skin.
We got the beaded curtain.
Beaded curtains.
We got the incense.
You know.
What's the incense with the black girl with the afro, the purple jump? Remember that?
You know what I mean? Yeah, no doubt. That's what it is, man. You know, as we kind of get everything all set up, I'm hoping that we have a lot of feedback. So for those folks who are listening to us, you can call us at 804-402-2893. That's the number to dial to be a part of tonight's discussion. There's plenty of room for anybody who wants to be a part of the discussion. You want to jump in, definitely make sure that you call us up. We were trying to get the live stream back up, but it doesn't appear that we're going to be doing that for the rest of the night. But last week was the first week we actually did that. And for those folks who were listening to the show then, we had a power outage that took us right on out as we were closing out the show. So we didn't even get to save it. So the live stream kind of saved us then. But Mr. 3375 is taking over, and he's kind of giving me the cue that he's actually ready. I had to feel that's, you know, again, me sharing with y'all, you know, production behind the scenes stuff. So I was feeling. All right. I was feeling. But he's ready for me now. And I think this is the clip right here that you, this is the clip, Mr. 3375, that you want right here.
But I want to do a trivia first.
You want to do a trivia first? I want
to do a trivia for all my hip-hop fans out there.
Okay.
Did you get your money, man? All right, got his money.
Damn, you got to ask him? You gave it to me. That means he got it, man.
You, bro, but God
damn.
You know what I'm saying?
It's business. This ain't personal. It's business.
God damn. Hey, look, I'm just glad he told the truth. Because then I would have been on the spot. Ain't that a bitch?
But this is all. This trivia question is for all my hip hop fans. And DJ, I know you out there. You can't answer this because you're a DJ.
All right.
One of my favorite groups. They came out as the Disco 3.
Oh man, that's easy.
What name did they change it to?
That's easy. You know, if he know it, if he know it, give him a mic.
It's easy.
And whatnot. This is the first time that you have ever heard this brother's voice on Ain't No Hashtag Marcus J. He sends me notes and texts and stuff all the time. He's a Legacy Internet Radio sponsor. He's my brother. He's our brother. Said, "What up, bruh? Live Action Captions." Now you want to jump in here and you want to actually answer the trivia question because you know you're going to get some. Now you get to talk. What you got, bro?
Of course, Fat Boys.
The Fat Boys. There you go.
I'm hungry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right, we can go to this clip. I'm going to piggyback off of the last segment. I think this coincides with the last part we was talking about. It's a clip that I want to play, and then Joe, I want you to start first and your sister follow.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
Place for the powerless to whine about the white man. But they invited Wakanda to the big boys' table because everyone wanted a crack at their resources. Untouched petroleum deposits, medical cures unknown in the Western world, and vibranium, the rarest, most valuable mineral on Earth.
Your Majesty, we'll pay whatever price you set for your goods.
They are not for sale until the spiritual advancement of the West catches up to their technological prowess. It would be irresponsible to share our scientific discoveries with you.
Are you calling everyone here irresponsible children?
No. More like sullen teenagers who feel more mature than their behavior warrants. The fact that every conversation here is framed in terms of profit and power says it all. You could have made half these breakthroughs yourself. But there's too much money to be made in misery. Why cure a disease when people pay for medicine? Why provide cheap energy?
Yeah, we
when...
get the point, T'Chaka. I've never met a socialist with a crown on his head before, but I guess there is a first time for everything.
Who gave you permission to use my first name?
I am sorry. I did not mean to offend.
I understand your frustration in dealing with a black man who can't be bought with a truck full of guns, a plane full of blondes, and a Swiss bank account. But please, hold on to what little class you have.
Your Majesty, I truly apologize.
This meeting is over.
Once it was clear there was no deal to be made, my job kicked in. This was not an easy gig. A month before the conference, they shut the hotel down for security purposes. Laid off any employee that had worked there less than a year.
Why do we have to leave immediately, Father? You said we could go skiing.
Now, this is why we have to leave. The children grow more insolent with each breath of European air.
Joe, what you got?
Well, first of all, I want to go to Wakanda. And I want to be an heir to the Wakandan throne. And if anybody know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
can I get a whoop whoop
Woo woo.
in the Champipple room? But yo, hey, we just talked about it, folks. Here we go again. The entitlement in that clip, and that's got to be an old clip.
Yeah.
The entitlement of the European culture is crazy. We sit there and talked about it in the first segment. We sit there and talked about it with a young Muslim woman in the hijab. We talked about it earlier when we talked about the medications. And here we are again. It was clear, and it's clear that the pharmaceutical companies, the haves always want to get at the have-nots. And because you can't be bought, if you stand on your morals and you cannot be bought, they got to get rid of you.
Yep.
Wow. That.
Yeah.
Ooh, I am now the Black Panther. Power to the people.
What you got, sis?
I agree with what he said, except I don't want to go to Wakanda.
No, Wakanda, man.
Wakanda? Okay. I was just reading 1,000 Years of Solitude in Wakanda. Anyway, I don't want to go there, but no, this was real. I personally love the end when he said, you know, the longer these kids stay around, these Europeans, the more disrespectful and insolent they get. Would you look at that?
Let me get the crew to respond to Hakeem's point. Hakeem says he understands where the clip was going, but homeboy had a point. You can't be a socialist and wear a crown on your head. You can't be a king and a socialist. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, he has a point, but I mean, I guess people, there's no true.
Well, you know, I think I agree with him when we look at the definition of what a socialist is, but I think calling someone a socialist is just another label that we put on them. I think you can be a moral and upright ruler. Does that make you a socialist, or does that just make you a good person? You know, what does that make you? I think his point is hard decisions have to be made, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, if that's not his point. But socialists, communist, Democrat, they're just labels that we put on people.
They're purple.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about that. I mean, it's one bird. You know, it's a big ass bird with a blue wing on one side and a red wing on the other side.
It's a peacock.
It's a purple bird, and so it doesn't matter. You know, I'm one of those people who skews, I guess, liberal. Mm-hmm. But I would never define myself as a Democrat. I just wouldn't. Right. You know, I'm somebody who would never define myself as a Republican. I mean, if I looked at the political landscape, I'm probably a libertarian actually, which is kind of a hybrid of the two. But I'm an independent. I think we would be unwise to get caught up in those kinds of labels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you said, Kim, because a socialist to me, and it's just my personal opinion, that's somebody that kind of wants to make sure that everybody eats. Mm-hmm. Like Jesus was a Jewish socialist, just like Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I know that offends people to hear that said to them. It's kind of like
Truth, though.
like a you problem.
I mean, they said. I mean, I heard somebody say that you couldn't be a minister and a politician at the same time because politicians lie.
So the ministers.
So the ministers.
Exactly.
So the ministers. And
Exactly, but
I
that's
am
going
saying
against their
this-
code.
No, actually, I'm saying this as a seminary student.
Okay.
That everybody lies, politician, minister, or whatever. Now, my personal opinion is that I don't think ministers should be politicians.
Right.
That is my personal opinion because I do think that it gets very murky. I do think that politicians lie and deceive more than some others. And I think that when you have politicians who are also ministers, it's a very, very muddy pool.
It's a muddy pool, but I also think that it's a natural progression. And I'm coming from a position of non-religious background because, depending on the size of the congregation, you're a natural leader. Like you wouldn't be the minister or the pastor or the leader if you were not a natural leader. And so I think the natural progression from leading. Say again.
Or a good line.
Or that too, and I think the natural progression is to take that leadership on a grander scale. You start in your congregation, and the next thing you know, you're doing community service, and you've developed relationships with folks that are not in your congregation, and they say, "Hey, pastor person, can you lead this?" And the next thing you know, you got more people that are looking at you, and then somebody says, pastor person, you should run for city council. And
I think the pastor should say no.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got you, and I respect that, and I do tend to agree with you, but I think that it's a natural progression, even if it's one where you should probably turn out. The mayor of Richmond is a pastor.
And look how that's turning out.
Yeah.
I do think I understand you saying that it's a natural progression. First of all, I think the pastor, the minister should say no. And second of all, I think people have titles confused with leadership.
Yeah.
You can be a
Smack 'em in the
leader.
mouth.
Yeah.
You don't need a title
Yeah.
to be a leader.
She
And so
dropped the mic and kept talking.
Yeah.
If you are a leader in your community, in your congregation, in your family, in your home, wherever, continue to do that. You can do that without feeling like you have to take the office and sign the checks. How about you put your support behind someone who has the experience and the knowledge? Because half of the people running local government have no business doing it. And that's not just in Richmond.
Right. Let me get Hakeem back in here. Hakeem, he's got two comments here that I want you guys to listen and respond to. First, he says, take the most ardent socialists and place them on the throne of all Russia, and before a year has passed, he will be worse than the Tsar himself. He also says, those are Western definitions of the term. Bernie isn't a real socialist. Socialists aren't politicians. And so I think he's addressing what I mentioned. I guess I understand where you're going with that, Hakeem. I think that if he was really, really a socialist, then he literally be looking to try to enact laws and legislation to literally take money out of rich folks' pockets and fill up the coffers of some of the homeless people in our country. So I actually agree with you, and to my own respond to myself or to my own point, I think you get caught up in using the term socialist based upon how we think about it in 2016 here in America, and that's your point where you're talking about the Western definition. So I do agree with you, and I will stand corrected on that one. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Mr. 3375, you ready for the next one, brother?
Yeah, we're going to Black, the Sellout, the history.
So we're looking at this next clip here, Black Sellout History. It's about a 4-minute clip. So everybody that's listening, stay here with us. And you know how Steppin with Marcus J and Champipple room. Take a listen. Be back in a minute.
When we were put into slavery, we were beat into submission, and the person that we looked up to was the slave master. So what you have to understand, a lot of black people in America look at themselves through the eyes of the slave master. We feel the same way that they feel about us. We want the same thing.
There have always been laws that would pit African-American people against other African-American people. During slavery, they had a law called the Meritorious Manumission Law, where African people would get rewarded for turning in another African slave or turning in a person who wanted to create some type of rebellion or runaway slave. So there were all types of incentives to give African American people for turning on each other.
We know that the first full-time FBI agent in American history, black agent, was actually hired to infiltrate the Marcus Garvey movement, working under the supervision of J. Edgar Hoover to destabilize it.
African American people are the only people who are rewarded for turning on other African American people. You don't see that with other people in the dominant society. You don't see Latino people being rewarded for turning on other Latino people. You don't see Asian people being rewarded for turning on other Asian people. But if there are African American people who are willing to talk badly or negatively about other African American people or throw other African American people under the bus, they get book deals, they get TV shows, they get radio show deals. So there are all types of rewards and incentives for African Americans to throw other African Americans under the bus. And this comes directly from slavery.
You know, at one time, the black man had to grin and smile all the time. Everything, it didn't matter what. You had to keep grinning, keep smiling. That was to show all of the white people that you were not hostile and you was a happy Negro. You wasn't mad about nothing. No matter how I've been treated, I'm still happy.
In the history of America, there have always been compromising black people who would do things to compromise the rest of the community. And there have been several names historically for black people who do things like this. The Sellout, Uncle Tom, Mammy, Coon. I mean, all types of names utilized for people who will compromise the rest of the black community.
You can't be born a coon. No, you have to practice being a coon. Practice grinning, practice bucking your eyes. Yeah, it's hard work to be a coon.
Mm-hmm. Why, that man is just wasting money.
From coon to tycoon.
The United States Army Office of Intelligence hired a black man by the name of R.R. Moore. This is going to blow people's mind. Booker T. Washington's vice principal at Tuskegee Institute was a paid undercover intelligence officer for the United States Army, whose job was to spy on Booker T because they were concerned that he was using Tuskegee, and they were correct in their suspicions, as a hideout for black revolutionaries away from the Klan and away from the government. We know that the man who infiltrated Malcolm and served as one of his security men, Gene Roberts, was an agent, and then after he brought Malcolm down, he goes and brings the Panthers down. So they used him again after, because nobody knew who he was yet. So they was able to use him again, and then he brought down the Panthers.
There is one thing that we have to be dealing with, and that is the issue of a total emancipation and liberation of our people. And if that's not the deal, then you're not part of the solution. And so we have to look at this very carefully, and we have to let folk know, whatever they may be, with all those minorities, if we all came together, we would understand we are the majority. But as long as we are divided, we will be conquered. And as long as they can play one group against another group, whatever it may be, whether it is the internal Willie Lynch syndrome or whether it is a cultural Willie Lynch syndrome, we will always be controlled, contained, and dominated by the true minority.
All right, big sis, what you got?
There was so much going on in that. I mean, I think my personal favorite soundbite was from Coon to Tycoon.
Say it again.
Coon to Tycoon. Yeah, that was my favorite soundbite. But, I mean, they didn't tell us anything Well, I hope they didn't tell you anything that you didn't already know. And if they did, I'm going to need you to go get some history books, not the ones written by white folks, though. Go get a real history book and figure that thing out. It's a classic problem in our community, and we need to do better about it. We have to support each other instead of always being the one to flip on the other one for the payout, whatever that payout might be.
You mean snitch?
Snitch, flip,
run them up, bamboozle,
throw under the bus,
hoodwink.
Yes, all of those things. All of those things. But then, I think the other side to that, the clip talked a lot about, people who were paid to infiltrate and, worked for various of the letter organizations, FBI, CIA, NSA, all of them. NAACP, all NAAA, right. Anyway, I think we also have to, before we judge, because I'm a big one on not judging, can anybody try to understand? I mean, I'm not saying that I can, but I would just like to have a little bit of dialogue around what would make a black man spy on Booker T. Washington.
The money.
For the Army. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the money.
Yeah.
Acceptance.
Yeah.
Potential prestige.
Right.
The lie.
But
they get to sit at the table with them.
You said it. They get to sit at the table with Massa. Or beside they get to sit beside the table.
They can sit beside the table.
They get to sit beside the table.
But I think it's a real area. It's real that whether we like it or not, that is the power structure.
We're the only group of people who don't stick together.
Yep.
The only group of people. You see the Mexicans sticking together. You see the Koreans sticking together. You don't hear about them being rewarded or their own people spying on them.
I love that you said that, Shana, because it reminds me of the conversation that you and I had this morning when we were talking about, certain things. And one of the things that we talked about was the Nword and my feelings about it. And, I'm not going to get into a long diatribe. The listeners of Ain't No Half Step with Marcus J on Legacy Internet Radio know how I feel about it. But one of the things that I shared with my sister was other cultures don't initiate conversations with each other in hate. Mm-hmm. Anytime you say, "What's up, my N-word?" everything you say after that is basked in hate. Because that's a hateful word.
And it's disrespectful.
It's a hateful, disrespectful word, but everything that you say after that, it doesn't matter that you think that you've flipped a word, made it a term of endearment. That's bullshit. It just is. It doesn't matter. That's a hateful word. You don't hear white people saying, "What's up, my H word?" Mm-hmm. You don't hear Jewish people saying, "What's up, my K word?" You don't hear Spanish people saying, "What's up, my S word?" You don't hear gay people, "What's up, my F word?" You know what I mean? Like, you just don't do that. That's why me personally, you have some. I got you. But me personally, and I hate me personally. Let me stop saying that. Me personally, when I have my feet on the couch. But what you won't hear me do is use that word. But what you will hear me do is, I don't care what color you are. I'm going to say, "What's up, brother?"
Yeah.
Right.
"What's up, sister?" Because if you begin the conversation with a loving word, it's difficult for even the most ardent asshole to reply or respond with hate. Now, some folks just going to be assholes.
Yeah, 'cause they just evil.
And they just evil.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that I will not be the initiator of that hate.
So I have a question for you when you talk about, and I, like you said, I know you don't use that word. I know how you feel about it. But I also know that you are a huge hip hop head. So how do you feel about supporting with your dollars folks who make their dollars off of that word?
And that was a great question, and I've been faced with it many times. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to regulate what other folks do. Mm-hmm. I've tried to do that. I spent probably most of my 30s doing that. Like, stop saying that word. Stop saying that word. Stop saying that word. Like, now I've gotten to the point where you're going to do what you're going to do. I don't eat pork. I don't tell people don't eat pork no more. you're gonna do what you're gonna do.
But not regulating it and supporting it are two different things.
Right. No, I got you. I mean, but at the end of the day, you also are dealing with an art and people in their art.
Okay.
And
expression.
And their art and their expression. And, you know, I'm not going to use the word. Mm-hmm. You know, I found myself in the car and NWA comes on, and every time that word pops up, I say brother.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Now, I've also played NWA on Legacy Internet Radio, you know, and I'm guessing that's where you're going. Mm-hmm. And I'll confront that directly. At the end of the day, it's the art and the folks that play those, that make that music, that make those songs. I like some of those songs. Yeah. I'm not going to not listen to a song because they've peppered certain words in it. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say specifically that we as people in this room, not just on this show, but on other shows, we as individuals, when we know better, we're going to do better. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to use it on the station. Music, songs, I know that may come across as hypocritical. I'll take that hit. But as the art, that's something that I'll allow.
I don't think it's hypocritical. I think that to each his own, you know, music is an expression of feelings. And at that moment, when they're writing these songs, that's how they actually feel. Not saying that it's right or wrong, right, you know, but that's just their feelings. So I don't think you're wrong for playing NWA or anything on here with the N-word on it, because that's those particular people feelings. Now your feelings are totally different, and everyone is different.
Right. So no, I mean, I've been asked that question before, and I'm glad, Kim, you asked me, because I have not been asked that question on the air. Okay. I've been asked that question off the air before, but I haven't been asked on the air quite as directly as you've asked it. And it's a very fair question, you know, because I do realize that there are some folks that may feel that there's some hypocrisy there.
And I agree. You know, I'm not knocking it at all. You know, I don't greet my female friends as bitch, and I don't like to be called that word by anybody else. But I love Eminem. You know, he cracks me up. He regularly killing folks in his songs. Right. And most of them are women. You know,
I love him.
He stay killing somebody.
Right.
So, you know,
that's how he feel at the moment.
That's how he feel about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No,
she's not going to go out and kill nobody. She don't condone that. But, hey, if that's how he feel at that moment, it's the same thing with the N-word and you. Like, you know, you don't say it. And that's your personal feelings, but in the music, they feel like saying it.
Yeah.
And it's all right.
Well, we also know that we watch movies that may have things in them that we don't necessarily agree with. Like, one of my favorite shows is a show called Scandal. And the
Scandal.
The primary relationship in that movie irks the shit out of me every time I see it. You know,
I didn't know you liked Scandal.
And the secondary relationship irks me just as much. So, it kind of.
We have something in common. I did not know you love Scandal like that, Marcus.
No, I'm a TV junkie.
You didn't tell me nothing about that.
If I told you all the shows that I watch, I would.
He is a TV junkie.
I am
really?
I am a TV
His
junkie.
DVR is full. I promise.
When do you watch it?
I got 3 DVRs. One of them is at 60%. That's the one I don't use. But then I got one that's at 32 and one's about 19.
So you need to erase some of this stuff.
But I can't.
Why? You watched it already.
No, I didn't. Like, that's the stuff that I ain't watched yet.
You have a problem, baby.
Yeah, I do. I got it's crazy. I got like old Western movies and like documentaries from like 2000.
So you're a hoarder.
I got the series finale for 24 that came out in 2010.
So you're hoarding
still on
movies.
my DVR.
You're hoarding these things, Marcus.
He's a DVR hoarder.
I got 12 episodes of Little House on the Prairie.
Wow.
On the Prairie? That's not even.
I got Key and Peele. Let's see what else I got on there. I got like History Channel and Big Cat Diary. And you know how Steppin with Marcus J.
Wait, about the tigers and stuff?
Yeah, man. You don't like Big Cat Diary?
I don't watch Animal
I
Planet.
watched Big Cat Diaries because I'm a cat lady.
Oh man, I love Big Cat Diary, man. They're like the best show on television.
I didn't know you like cats like that.
I did like the one. What were the little? Not ferrets.
I mean,
what
big
was the
cats.
little ones that sit up on their hind legs that come out the little holes?
Meerkat.
Meerkats,
yes.
Meerkat man.
Meerkat man,
Yes.
yeah. I don't like
Meerkats.
I don't like domestic cats.
No, I'm talking about the big
I
cats.
love big cats, but I don't like the medium range big cats. I only like the ones that roar.
You
And
like
it's
the
only-
like
panthers?
pumas
You don't like the panthers?
No. They
They
count.
don't roar.
They do.
Puma.
They do because they're part of the leopard family.
I thought
Oh.
And
panthers were mythological.
so you got
Oh. And they're really not black.
They are
there's
mythological.
only I
everyone
think it's
in my
4.
world.
I think it's 4. It's the lion, the tiger, the leopard. The cheetah can't roar.
Cheetah doesn't roar.
The cheetah doesn't roar.
So you don't like
I
like
mean,
it?
they're cool. But
I love all
But me
non-domestic
personally,
cats.
I like the lion. And you know how Steppin
You a
Marcus
lion,
J,
baby.
live from the den, Legacy and the radio. As far as yeah, I caught that.
He's not
I don't know if the listeners caught it, but Shayna certainly did. As far as the clip, Mr. 3375. I mean, first of all, shout out to Tariq Nasheed because that was Hidden Colors 3. We got a lot of sellouts that I missed. I mean, the reality is you got people who. You got a lot of people who want to be a part of something that they really shouldn't want to be a part of. You got a lot of followers, you know, and I can't remember who it was, but somebody here on the panel mentioned that, you know, they want to sit at the table, you know, with their oppressors. And there's so much more to that clip that we could have got to that we didn't. But the reality is you looking up to folks that look up to you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? A large part of the oppression that is laid upon not just black people, but people of color are of people who want to be like them, who emulate them and things that, you know, with power and things of that sort. So I know that if we, and I'm speaking of black folk because I'm a black man, I know that if we actually took the time to quit hating on each other and actually love on each other and work together, like actually put money together and do things together instead of like having a natural mistrust and hatred for each other. The stuff that we can do is crazy, especially now. Not so much 100 years ago in Reconstruction and civil rights and all of that kind of stuff when there wasn't the kind of money that we had. We're talking about now when you got more black millionaires and billionaires than you ever had before.
Yeah.
And you got so many people that's so concerned about keeping their own position. Like, you ain't got to be a socialist to want to help folks that came behind you. Like, if you came out of Jersey City and you got a little something, you should want to help the kids at your high school where you actually toiled.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a simple process. And every other community does that. You know, I mean, that's what nepotism is all about. Nepotism sometimes gets a negative connotation, but ain't nothing wrong with nepotism.
Right.
Because all nepotism is you taking care of your own.
It's just leaving a legacy.
That's it.
Yep.
That's all
what
it
you're
is.
supposed to do.
That's what you're
For all
supposed
you
to
good
do.
Christians, that's what the Bible say you do. You leave a legacy for the ones that come behind you.
Exactly.
But you know what? Once again, the entitlement of the other folk don't want you to know that. They don't want you to believe in that. They want you to think that, yo, they out to get you. I'm the only one who can protect you. Stay close to me.
Yep.
I agree with you, but we also have to take responsibility for ourselves. At some point, we got to stop blaming them other folks because the devil gonna be the devil. Period.
We have to take responsibility, but you have to be taught first, and you have to be taught to understand.
But we were taught, and there's enough of us who were. And the unfortunate reality is, those of us who were taught, and I agree with you, but those of us who were taught, a lot of us are freaking punks and lazy. And we don't do the things that we're supposed to do.
They take the easy way out.
Because William Edward Burghardt Du Bois said that there's a talented tenth. The talented tenth, basically what that is 1 out of 10 dudes is smart enough to be able to pull along those 9 dudes. That's it. It's that simple. You only need 1 out of 10 that should be able to pull along those 9.
Yeah, but it's funny that you say that because you know what? You got 1, but then you know what? Then you got the 2 and 3 who just not as dumb as everybody else want to believe it. But like you said, they're just too lazy.
Right. Well, that actually, you know, that's kind of what the nation of gods and earth believe when you talk about the 5%. That's what that's all about. You know, you can agree or disagree with their religious doctrine, and they will say that they're not a religion. I got you on that. But the philosophical piece of that is 5% of the world gets it. 5% get it. You know, 10% get it, but they are the ones that's trying to make sure that the 85 stay in the 85.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so this is another example of how all religions are kind of intertwined, because everybody has a doctrine where they get it. But then you have a bunch of lazy ass people who ain't trying to do nothing. And that's the problem, because the masses is lazy and they sit on their ass. And at some point, that 1 out of 10 or that 5% can only do but so much. And you know how Steppin Marcus J live from the Dan Legacy Internet Radio.
If y'all have any questions or have an opinion, call in at 804-402-2893. That number again is 804-402-2893. I have another clip I'm on to run, and Shane, I want you to take this out the air.
All right, here we go.
Hatred everywhere we go as black people, we face hatred. Look at it. Look at it. Angel food cake, white people say, is white. Devil's food cake, you say, is black. You wear white to weddings and black to funerals. Black ball, black male. You give us a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pale-skinned, buttermilk complexion Jesus in contradiction to the black Jesus with nappy hair in the Bible. Our own babies, according to behavioral scientists, our baby girls, when confronted with choosing between a black doll and a white doll, there has been so much damage done, they choose the white doll and say the black doll is ugly. So racism is everywhere, and it's institutionalized. We cannot really be racist, because racism is prejudice plus power. Nothing I say up here nor anywhere in the world will impact, stop fronting, will impact on any white folks in this audience, on your job, in politics, in economics, in housing, in the society. We don't have the power to do that, so we cannot be racist.
What you got?
I totally agree with him. I never even looked at the fact that angel food cake is white and devil's food cake is black. I never ever even looked at it like that. I'm in awe, like, oh my God, I'm gonna go out here and start looking at things from a different perspective. We've been taught this. This is all teaching. All of this is taught. This is, I don't even know how to grasp it. I just think that it's all taught.
You didn't realize that everything black was bad?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the
I just I've never, I'm a baker, so I bake cakes all the time, and I never realized that angel food cake is. I never took the time.
Angel
white,
black ball,
black devil,
black male,
devil's
food.
It's all going. I mean, who named these cakes?
white
people, right? So it's all taught. This is all taught. I try to look at things from a perspective that we're all spirits having a humanly experience, because what I do is a little different. But this, I just believe this is horrible. Like, this is just bad.
What you got, big sis?
Yeah. But, and I think his final point that he went out on was that black people can't be racist.
I agree with that statement, because it's taught.
Well, you have to have power to be a racist.
Yeah.
Right, you have to be
We can be prejudiced.
Yeah, we can be prejudiced.
But we can't be racist.
You have to have power. I mean, we discussed that so many times. I mean, I know Marcus J and I, we've had that discussion. How can you be racist?
Well, I think a lot of times people get caught up in the word. Like, you want to be able to say that somebody is a bigot or prejudiced and stuff like that. And so you get caught up in the most common word for prejudice or race, prejudice or bigoted. And that common word in today's world is racist. But to be a racist, like Dr. Khalid Muhammad said, there's an economic component to racism. And if you don't have that economic component, then you cannot be a racist. If you cannot control someone's life, if you cannot make it so a person cannot advance, if you cannot be someone who can make it that you can't get a job, if I could fire you because I don't like your hair, then I'm racist. But if I can't do that, then I'm not. You know what I mean? Now, if I'm a person like Michael Jordan, he could be a racist. You know what I mean?
He has the power.
He has the power to do
money.
that. Marcus J can't be no racist. You know what I mean? And so on a grander scale, when you're looking at not just individuals, but if you're looking at a community, because I made the Michael Jordan analogy to kind of throw a little levity in the situation, but the reality is racism is more about groups. And as a group, as a community, black folk can't be racist. The only people that could be racist is white folk. And, you know, it's some white folk who's listening right now. I hope that don't get you in your feelings. But if we're looking at the definition of the word, that's what we're talking about. Now, black folk can be nasty-ass bigots, but you can't be a racist.
Can we turn left a little bit? Because one of the things he talked about was the classic case where they presented a white doll and a black doll to a black child, and which doll did that child pick? Right. And I think that, you know, the colorism, even within our own communities, is something. It's one of those things that until we can get over it, we are not going to support each other. We're going to keep turning on each other because we still believe what Master said, that the good old house Negroes were better than the ones out in the field. And, you know, even today, a couple of weeks ago, Lil' Kim came out on Instagram, and she looks absolutely nothing like she used to look. I didn't even know who it was. I was like, "What? She's not even your complexion. She's like dust."
She don't have a complexion.
She made up one.
Yeah, but you know, one of the things that Little Kim has said is that she never felt loved. She didn't feel like her father loved her. She always felt like her boyfriends were always leaving her for the more European-looking woman. And what Big Brother Joe just sat here and said was, Biggie loved her. Yeah, but Biggie married Faith.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. You will just keep breaking my mics, ain't you?
I'm sorry. But I feel very, very strongly about the colorism because I am a dark brown sister who has experienced it for herself, even within her own family. So I now have a very, very precious goddaughter who is fair-skinned, you know, and one of the things that I am so trying to teach her is that we are beautiful in all of the shades that we come in.
Yep. One of the things that I try to make a point of doing is, obviously, because I'm raising a future black queen who's a princess now. But I try to impress upon her that beauty, first of all, you have it. You have it in your own natural state. But beauty comes in different forms. As a black woman, it's imperative that you embrace your natural beauty. It's okay if you want to go and do things that you may call enhancements. You may call them enhancements, and that's fine. The hair, the nails, whatever you want to do, makeup, whatever it is you want to do, that's fine. Enhancements. But you need to know that what you came here with is fine. And I'm going to be honest with you. I got a nice car, but I ain't putting no rims on it.
Right.
Because all I'm going to do is devalue my car by putting rims on it.
True. And yeah, I mean, whatever you want to do for yourself, if you want to weave, wear weave. I don't care.
Go for it.
You know, that is not what I choose to do.
Right.
But just last week, a family member of mine looked at my baby dreadlocks and said, "You used to have such beautiful hair."
And I still do.
And I still do because it's growing out of my head.
Gorgeous.
That's it.
You know, but this is the mentality in our community that I used to have beautiful hair when I put a relaxer in it.
I want to tell you something, though.
Yes, ma'am.
Coming from a light-skinned person of color, I, too, have felt the effects of not being dark enough, not being black enough. So I feel like the spectrum can go either way.
Well, it's all just ways to divide and conquer.
Yep.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, I feel like all of this has been taught from slavery time, and they divided the slaves, they divided the lighter skin and they made it like this, and it's still like this today. Because at the end of the day, they always think that lighter is better, and honestly, coming from a light-skinned person, my whole life I thought I was not beautiful because I wasn't dark enough. And that really stemmed really deep within me, and it took a while for me to get, acknowledge that, hey, I am black enough. So I totally get exactly where you're coming from a different standpoint. Either way, it's divide.
We had nothing to do with the way we look.
Yep.
So however it shakes out, we're black.
Hakeem is disagreeing with me. He says anyone can be racist. I think structural and instructional racism are ways you can express it or institutionalize it, but those aren't the only ways it can be expressed or personified. We'll have to agree to disagree on that one, simply because, I just feel strongly about the fact that unless you can control someone's life, then there is no racism. Yeah. You can be a bigot, you can be a nasty person, you can be someone who discriminates and all of that kind of stuff, but, unless you can affect someone's life, there isn't any racism. I could discriminate against you if I own a store and I don't want you to come in. I own and run Legacy Internet Radio. If you white and I don't want you here, I'm not a racist. I'm discriminating against you, but I'm not a racist. I'm being a bigot in that moment. And so, I think we'll just have to disagree on that one.
All right, we got one more clip we're gonna run, and Big Brother Marcus, you chime in on it first.
All right, here we go.
And you run into some statistics of, say, less than 55. Less than 55. Now, given this reality, these are the type of problems I'm saying to you that you as a student must begin to, let's look at the other things together. So what they say is, okay, here's what they're saying now to us. They're saying, those of you who are making it, those of you who have PhD from the University of Chicago and the head of mental health centers, you got it made. It's a class struggle now. Class. And that came from, of course, as we all know, which they captured. See what happened in the 60s. Why we lost the battle in the 60s. Why you never hear nobody talk about the 70s. How many of you people here talk about the 70s? Nobody. Everybody said, boy, in the 60s. And here we are in the 80s. Nobody talk. Because in the 70s, those whites regrouped and wiped us out. You see, here's what happened. White women saw their men in trouble. And like all female animals, anytime the male gets in trouble, the female attacks. That is a law of nature. A law of nature. If you don't believe it, we can prove it in a zoo anytime you want to. Now, what happened, white women came out and captured our women and convinced us that white women were not as racist as white men. And convinced us, or convinced our women, that they would place them above their husbands, their brothers, their lovers, their children, their sons, and we were. Then the white gays came out and convinced our gays it was a gay struggle. And stole our gays, Okay? White students came out and grabbed our black students, said it was a student struggle, and wiped out our black students. And all of a sudden, we up to wondering, where's the fight? It's not a fight. So now they're coming up with books such as, book is The Declining Significance of Race. Brother named Wilson wrote that book, who is the chairperson of the Department of Sociology at the University of Chicago. That's very revealing. Because out of that same department came who? Black bourgeoisie. E. Franklin Frazier in 1939. That is the Chicago school where you show. So what Wilson is saying, this brother wrote this book, The Declining Significance of the Race. The race is declining in significance, and now class becomes important. Of course, Wilson is the only black in the Department of Sociology at the University of Chicago. That's one reality. The other reality, he has a white wife. Now, race declines every night for him. That's what it's all about.
Ain't no how Steppin Marcus said.
What you got for me, big brother?
He took it home right there at the end. It's one of those times where, you play a clip and I get to say I told you so. Like the whole time, during, the quiet time of the mics, when you were playing this, what did I say? I've been saying that.
Right.
During the 60s when everything was strong, what ended up happening was you had a whole bunch of people who came out of the 60s who went into the 70s who saw what happened to them cats in the 60s. They was like, yeah, I ain't trying to have that happen to me. It ain't going down like that for me. And so the 70s, you had a whole bunch of people who was really, really quiet. Mm-hmm. And, there was some It was basically a dark period in civil rights and all of that kind of stuff until, like he said, the 80s, when you had, you know, the dawn of the crack era and things of that sort, which he didn't allude to, but those are the things that I've always said. What I've also always said was, you know, yeah, it's going to always be about color in this country. Yeah. It's going to always be about color in this country because you're going to have entitled white folk and lazy black folk, and that's a terrible mix. Yeah. Entitled white folk who feel like because they white that they get to have certain privileges. That's what white privilege is about. And lazy black folk who think because there's some entitled white folk that they get to sit around and complain. Like, you don't get to sit around and complain because the system's messed up. Like, get off your ass and actually do something. Right. And so when you have those two things on opposite ends of the spectrum, those of us in the middle get kind of pinched. So the last thing that I will say on this is that the piece that he mentioned on classism is perfect, because if you look at the wealth disparity in our country, it's widening. There's so many more really, really rich people of all kinds of ethnic backgrounds. You know, if you look at athletics and you look at music, you know, you're looking at people who would have never been rich before. Yeah. And who would have, you know, they're rich now, but their families in future generations are going to have wealth. Because just because you got money, once that money moves on to another generation after you die, then it becomes wealth. Right. And it will be there for generations. So you've never had the kind of wealth in minority. Damn, I said it again. I hate that word. You've never had the kind of wealth in non-white communities like you have now. But the disparity is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you got a lot of really, really poor white folk that get to be the new N-words. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the piece that he was saying. Now, looking at that clip, I would guess that this is probably somewhere in the early 80s when this man is talking. I don't know, but just judging by his Isaac from Love Boat Fro.
Yeah, he was just getting out the 70s.
You know what I mean? Like, I would guess that's what we got going on. Last thing before I turn the mic over, I'm going to get Hakeem's comment. He is citing the unconscious racists not knowing they're racist. They invade your spaces. They say, I'm not a racist. I'm not a bigot, yet they allow it to go on and won't admit it. That's KRS. There's no such thing as race. It's a social construct. Man's most dangerous myth, The Fallacy of Race by Ashley Montague. So he's giving us some. He's basically citing his sources. Right. Who's next?
Big Sis.
Right. So what had happened was, I mean, again, he was telling a lot of truth. But I think, you know, one of the things that Marcus J just said was talking about how, you know, the entitlement and how that's always going to be around with the white folks. And I think it's going to be around because I refer to it as America has yet to deal with their original sin. Until we can deal with it, until we can talk about it, and until they can admit that they racist and we can admit that we knew it all along, then we're going to keep on making the same mistakes.
Well, you know, growing up years ago, I had someone tell me, you know, one of our elders said that the worst thing that ever happened to us as a people was integration. We had more black businesses. We were able to take care of ourselves, our children, our families, so on and so forth, until integration happened.
And our kids knew how to act.
And we were able to budget. You made 50 cents a week, $50 a week. You could buy a house full of groceries. You could pay all of your bills, including your rent. And our kids were clean. Our kids were educated. Now, all of a sudden, you can't make it off of $50,000 a year for some odd reason.
That's the truth.
So, exactly. So I tend to agree that even though I was not around, per se, when integration happened or understood it then, but I think it has a lot to do with where we are today.
No, I can dig it. And you know, I have Steppin with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. We are going to take our final break of the night. Come back.